You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We don't have any new callers today, but we have Kyle from Madison. Also, not a ton of calls, so this may be a short episode. We will see. Make sure you get your calls in. Let's keep this thing rocking.
Ryan, how's it going, buddy? Kyle from Madison.
What's up?
So, just appreciating the post-draft coverage. It's always an exciting time to kind of see what hand you got dealt.
Oh, yeah.
And, about Williams, I called a couple days ago, just saying it's easy to see just from his YouTube highlights packages how some of the stuff he does and his versatility could be used in our offense. And the word gadget's getting thrown out a lot, and hell, I might have even used it. And I think it's like, well, that's really not a very good description for what I'm thinking about, though, for him, because gadget to me kind of indicates something you don't use very often, and then you kind of throw it out there for a purpose built to achieve something very specific, but it's a rare thing. And I think LaFleur has shown he loves running the receivers out of the backfield. Like that read, he had a couple of running plays. The read he ran fairly often, and then the reverses and whatnot to Watson. I don't know if that translates to other guys too, but certainly LaFleur has shown that he likes to involve the receivers in the running game. So I think that's just kind of part of our offense now. So we'll see. It's going to be really fun in camp when we start hearing where Williams is lined up and how Golden's looking and those two. It's just going to be exciting. So hopefully he ends up being a guy that can use at several positions. Yeah,
I think, like you said, it's something that Matt LaFleur likes to do. So obviously, at the very least, he's going to be able to be that guy. But obviously, there is an intention to grow him beyond that. And if he can't be anything beyond that, then this was a bad pick. And that to me is sort of what's obvious about this situation and what's wrong with trying to pigeonhole him into like this weird gadgety role. The gadget stuff is a part of the offense, and he hopefully will be very good at that. But again, if that's all he is, then this didn't go the way that the Packers are hoping.
But the one thing I think a lot of people probably thinking like this, outside of edge, but I think cornerback is probably one of our weakest rooms. And it just makes me kind of even more sick about the whole Jaire. And I also don't understand it, really. I understand, it's frustrating he's been hurt. But, it doesn't seem at this point that there's a lot of gain either on the cap. Like, what are we going to spend the cap on anyway? Maybe a couple of June 1st cuts? I don't know. The savings isn't really there. There's not going to be draft picks. And it just makes me wonder, what all had to transpire beyond the injuries for them to be just, I don't want to say chasing out, but because certainly it goes both ways, but to be this determined to get rid of an all-pro, potentially all-pro cornerback that is at a position of weakness for you, what is going on behind the scenes here? Because it's just, on paper, it just isn't adding up, just the injuries.
Sure.
Was it Hobbs has been injured too? I would love to just see Jaire and Hobbs on there, and then at least the chance that one of them makes it through the season, it's at least better.
Yeah, get to part two in a second, but that's kind of been my contention, is that there has to be more behind this. And there's been stuff bubbling under the surface for a long time. Frustrations and weird comments and just tiny little things. There's obviously been a ton of speculation. I don't know if there's anything that's been solid that's been said out there, but a ton of speculation that Jaire is choosing not to go on the field when I think the team feels he can. And I think that's been a source of frustration. So, and I think Jaire feels the team has kind of mismanaged his injury stuff, maybe pushed him when he shouldn't have been, which has caused him to continue to be injured. You know, there was that whole thing with firing the entire training staff. So there is stuff beyond what we're seeing, beyond just, well, he's injured a lot, screw him, let's just cut him. But I don't know. And there has been, you know, we'll talk about it a little bit tomorrow, some positive developments on that in terms of the Packers being open to him returning. I don't know if that's 2%, 10%, 50%, 90%, I don't know. But I guess it's not 0%.
Yeah, just finishing up my point there. But, yeah, I mean, the chance that Hobbs, if you get Jaire back on there, and you have Hobbs and Jaire, both of the guys have had some injury problems, you know, maybe one of them makes it through the season, and it's just such a different room with Alexander on the roster. And it's not like it's a Bakhtiari situation, you know. If it's just the injury thing, he's had different stuff. Now, if Gutekunst just is thinking, well, he's breaking down, it's going to be something different, maybe. But it can't just be that, right? I mean, this has got to be some ridiculous stuff behind the scenes. It's just, I'm not privy to that information. Just from the outside, it looks confusing to me, especially at this point when we haven't gotten anything. If we were going to get anything small that it would have been, it would have already happened. And now we're talking about single-digit millions or less and a lot of dead cap going forward. Like, where's the benefit, you know, anymore? And, you know, unless he's just such a locker room cancer. But, you know, we've seen him, I don't know, after that whole Carolina coin flip thing. I mean, it seemed like he came around after that. And I don't know that, like, how is it that how can we not make this work, I guess what I'm saying. Is he just such an iconoclast that he won't play ball? I don't necessarily see that. I mean, at this point, isn't it the coach's job? Like, at what point do we say, hey, injuries are one thing, but if you can't make it work with a player, you're failing at your job then. I mean, we need a freaking cornerback. If Alexander's healthy, you know, on this roster, that's a totally different defense. Coaches, like, figure it out. I don't know. I get more upset every day I think about this because we need a damn cornerback. We have one that we're just, like, trying to get rid of. Like, figure it out. Coach the guy. I don't understand. Like, isn't this their job to make it work with all these personalities? That's what they get paid the big bucks. Like, just make it work. Because they didn't get one in the draft. Yes, I know we got Kalen King. We got a guy in the 7th. But come on. Even with those guys, even if one of those guys becomes a new Valentine, the depth there is really still suspect and could submarine the whole thing. So, I'm not understanding what's happening. Obviously, there's a lot of information I don't have, but it's pretty upsetting. It really is to me. Anyway, we'll talk to you.
Well, and I think that would be something that kind of stands out is I don't think, well, again, it's complete speculation, but it's worth considering that he is not in the good graces of the locker room. And I know that seems unlikely because people say nice things in front of the camera, about Jaire and all that stuff. But there's also been a lot of talk from Tucker Kraft, from the new guys that have come in about, you know, there needs to be buy-in. We need to have guys with the right attitude. And if it is the sort of belief that Jaire is kind of sitting out and kind of bailing on his team when they need him, you can be a fun, goofy guy in the locker room and all that, but it kind of becomes not funny anymore when you're kind of leaving your team out to dry. And when you're getting into these little fights, and again, remember, this is speculation, but it's worth considering. If you're getting into these petty little fights with the team because you just feel like I'm not being treated right and all this stuff, you could see where there would be a rift forming, despite the fact that it seems unlikely because he seems like such a nice guy. It gets bigger than that when you get to the football part of it. And I think that could be another problem where, you know, he's causing a rift in the locker room and a lot of the guys aren't really happy with him. And so it might be better for the team for him to not be a part of it and cause that strain and to have that sort of negative attitude. Like I said, I think there was a lot. I think, you know, Rasul and Jaire and Devonte Campbell and all these guys started to kind of develop an attitude against the team a little bit. And, you know, Devondre's gone, Rasul is gone, and it feels like Jaire is kind of the odd man out as they try to replace people with that attitude with people with better attitudes that want to come in and compete and all that kind of stuff and battle through injuries and all that kind of stuff. I'm just saying you could see a scenario where it's like he's not a team player. He doesn't want to be a part of this. And everybody's just kind of tired of the whining and tired of the excuses and tired of the, whatever. So again, I don't know. I have no idea. It's entirely possible that this is just the team loves him and he is battling through stuff or whatever. And really it just comes down to finances, where they look at his contract and say it just doesn't make sense. That, again, this is where you and I are like, bro, I get it doesn't make sense. I don't give a crap. Let's just ride through. We have the money. Let's just put up with it. It's not like we're going to spend that money on something. If you want to cut him after this year and spend whatever money is there for that free agents period, great, fine, let's do that. But let's get through this season and see how it goes. Which again, we could make the case that it's not that and that it is just finances, where they say he's not worth this amount of money because we don't expect him to really play. So either take a pay cut or whatever. But, on top of that, again, we heard that the Packers never even asked him to do that. So if it was a financial thing and you really want him there, you would just go to him and say, hey, look, we really can't do this. We need some kind of a pay cut. Never once did the Packers even offer it. And, we heard that Jaire's camp wouldn't accept it, but not offering it kind of tells me that there is more to this. And so, again, a lot of that is speculation, but it's also obvious that it's something. And Jaire always did kind of seem on the outs, when you talk about leaders and all that kind of stuff. Jaire wasn't really brought up. So he seems like a fun guy and all that, and he's funny, and I could see him being like the life of the locker room. But do we know that he's one of the guys that's... And again, I know he's a worker, and I think that's part of what the frustration comes in. I'm not trying to say that he's a bad dude and he doesn't care about football, but I think him caring about football in a way that very much conflicts with what the Packers have done. In other words, I want to be the best, and here's how I think we should do it, and the team disagreed and said something else, and so that caused kind of a rift. And he kind of went full anti-team, and the rest of the team's like, okay, cool, dude, but we're trying to win games here, and you're over here trying to hold some kind of a protest. So I don't know, but, again, news has emerged that the Packers are at least open to it and are working towards some kind of a resolution with Jaire. That doesn't necessarily mean a resolution that includes him staying, but apparently that is one of the potential outcomes of this resolution. The bottom line is they're sitting down and they're like, look, we got to hammer this out. We got to do something. And, Jaire is being kind of unreasonable here because he's unwilling to negotiate his contract to stay. He's unwilling to negotiate his contract in a trade. And all that's going to mean is that we cut him. And what's going to happen if he gets cut? He loses all that money, and then he's going to get a new contract, and it's going to be a small contract anyways. So you're just being stubborn for the sake of being stubborn. You're not getting some kind of superstar contract. If a team was willing to pay it, then they would trade for you. They're not willing to trade for you with this contract. Nobody's going to pay you that. So again, this feels his inability or his complete lack of desire to rework his contract is really what it feels like to me is just a middle finger to the Packers. Because he's going to get the same contract anyways. It's just a matter of whether the Packers get compensation or not. And he's basically saying, screw you, cut me, you get nothing, and then I'll go work out a contract with somebody else on my own terms. Which, again, could be another indication of things not going very well. The fact that he has no desire to work with the Packers on anything at all.
And one more thing here. Because we spent so much time talking about the offensive line last 2 years, and then got some serious chips that fell in this draft for us. Mm-hmm. And can I just say I love that the dude we took in the second, I love that his nickname is Escalade.
Yes.
That is just that to me that seals it for me, It says it all. Let's everybody hop in. We're rolling with the boys in style. Here we go.
By the way, got a sweet song. So I was trying to find songs to do a compilation for Belton. I'm going to work on that after I do this podcast. But there were two songs that I really like, and I'm not even sure which one I'm going to pick yet. I think it's going to be the one that I'm going to put on this show. But tomorrow's episode, we're going to talk about Belton, and I've got two songs that I like. One is going to be on the end of this show. One is going to be on the end of the other one. But also, there's going to be hopefully, by the time you hear this or by the time you check it out tomorrow, on the YouTube channel Packernet After Dark. or not Packernet podcast, also on X and Facebook and whatnot. I'm going to put it on there, but I'm really excited about these two. These two songs are fantastic. So 2 different variations of the song, and you get to hear both of them, because usually there's like 3 or 4 I like, and I end up picking one and putting it on the podcast. There's 2 I like, and I'm going to use both of them. But Escalade is a big part of that song, which gets me excited.
Go. That is fantastic, but I'm hearing a lot of people saying, well, this for sure means Rasheed Walker's gone. I don't really think that that's the case. I think it's possible that the Packers, like, if Walker just...
I guess my complication is I don't really see a scenario. The only scenario where Rasheed just stays exactly where he is if one of these guys busts out. Because he's not going to stay as a backup. And we don't really have... all we have right now that is open for competition, if we assume Rasheed is our left tackle, is right guard. And we have a first and a second round pick. I mean, we have a right tackle. We have a center in Elton. We went out and paid kind of big money for a left guard. And we have 2 high round picks. One of them, Belton, is built like a right guard. The other guy is built a little bit more like a left tackle. Now, Morgan didn't really show out at left tackle, and they pretty much exclusively wanted to keep him at right guard, so maybe that's the way that this goes. But I have a feeling if everything went the way that you would kind of want it to go, Jordan Morgan would be our left tackle, and Anthony Belton would be your right guard. Or Morgan right guard, Belton left tackle. But, and again, Rasheed, I think, would stay as a tackle this year as a backup, unless we can get some good compensation in a trade, which we absolutely could. But, yeah, we'll see what you have to say, but I just, that's sort of my complication, is I don't see a scenario outside of one of these guys sucks and busts out and is a backup until we end up just moving on from him.
He's as good as he was, serviceable left tackle with some upside. I just think it's possible the Packers may not want to pay the premium that he's going to command on the market for just kind of that level and not more. But I do think if he were to put together like a season where he improves even, I don't think they'd be against paying him. But let's just assume hypothetically that going forward, maybe without Walker or with him, whatever. But what do you think about the line? Because we're going to put Jenkins at center. That seems pretty obvious. Mm-hmm. Tom is going to stay on the right.
I'm assuming.
Did we just draft? Is Escalade going to be the right guard, or are they going to redshirt him maybe this year? Because we've seen them not afraid to do that, basically a redshirt.
Well, I mean, that's not ideal. Obviously, you want guys to start, but it's possible. I mean, again, that kind of comes back to the only reason that these things don't happen is that somebody's not good. And bust might be a little bit unfair, but, yeah, that's the other problem, though, is we have to make a decision on Rasheed, so it becomes really complicated if Morgan, like, let's say Morgan doesn't take a step and Belton is not quite ready round 1. Obviously, the negative fans are going to come out and force, it's 2 busts. It's like, well, we don't really know about either, okay? Let's give Morgan 1 more year and Belton 2 more years, and let's just see how this goes. But still, we have a decision to make with Rasheed. Now you have to pay him, and you have to pay him as a left tackle. Or you don't pay him, and it's sink or swim with thing guys. But I feel like you kind of have to pay him and assume that one of these guys is not going to grow, and one of them does, and when he does, he's a right guard. That's kind of the thing. But again, the only scenario in my mind where Rasheed, and he, from year 1 to year 2, he did improve, and if he does it in year 3, and heaven forbid he becomes a good run blocker, he's a legit top 10 tackle at that point, because he's already a borderline top 10 pass blocker according to PFF, which, is certainly debatable. You could use some other metrics. Don't use ESPN, for the love of God. But, we've got 3 guys. We have Rasheed Walker, we have Belton, and we have Morgan. And there's 2 offensive line spots we got to figure out. So we'll see.
Or sometimes they kind of let injuries and strength deficiencies kind of sort it out, and people end up having to hit the weight room and slim down or whatever, or put on weight. But I'm just trying to figure out how they're going to piece this together. I'll tell you what, though, having watched what happened in that Eagles game where, we were 2 guys removed from just complete and utter disaster, with
Right.
Monk and Glover coming in. I mean, it was just a complete nuclear meltdown of that offensive line. So I think a second-round pick for some depth wouldn't be unheard of either. But just curious what you think, how that shakes down, or maybe what they're envisioning is the long-term plan for that O-line. All right, thanks, bud.
Well, I'm positive they didn't intend for him to be depth. I mean, there's no way. If he ends up being depth, that was a terrible pick. If you want to talk 6th, 7th round or something, fine. And even then, you don't intend for somebody to necessarily be depth, but you kind of know that that's... if it ends up being the case, then you're okay with it. If a late round guy, a day 3 guy, especially, again, 6th, 7th, maybe 5th or whatever, ends up being quality depth, then you're okay. 2nd round, no. No, not... That was a bad pick, if that's just depth. It's better than not having it, and it's better than being a complete bust, no doubt about it. But it's not going to be looked at positively historically. I'm not going to look back at this draft class and go, hey, Belton, he was a good backup for us. Nice little 2nd-round pick there. That sucks. I mean, Josh Myers and Elton Jenkins are 2nd-round picks. One of them is a starter that got big-time paid. The other guy was a starter that, was he would be a decent backup. They just got rid of him. Because that's just not, it ain't going to happen. You're not good enough, you're gone. I mean, Myers would have been a decent backup, but he was a quality starter for a couple years and then fell off, and he will be forever recognized as a really bad 2nd-round pick. All right, why don't we take a break? We'll come back, and we got Steve in Alaska.
Hey, Ryan, Steve up in Alaska. Long time no call. Hope everything's going well over here. Glad to hear that you had a good time going to the draft. Would have been nice to be able to go down there, but I'm up here getting my season going. I'm already into my first week of the season. A little slow, but I'm opened up a week early, so I kind of like that. But anyways, on to the topic at hand, the NFL draft and the Packers. I hope you're excited and all ready for woulda, coulda, shoulda season, because that's what we're in now. Everybody's going to say if we would have done this, or we could have done that, or we should have done this, because nobody's happy with what the Packers do, even though none of us are sitting in their office space and actually looking or listening to or discussing with them how the team is being built and what the plans are for the team. But we all seem to think we know, and we know better, which is hilarious and makes me laugh. The Shadur Sanders thing is a great big glowing example of that. Everybody knew where that was supposed to happen, and it didn't.
Nope.
And everybody knows that the whole league made a mistake, but who knows about that yet? But I did like our picks. It was a little surprising. The second wide receiver. I've been listening to some people talking. Everybody's kind of a little questioned and potentially down on him. The discussion that we can running back him, and I know we're not supposed to talk that, but I mean, what if he's a version of Debo Sanders, or Debo Samuels?
Yeah.
I mean, would any of us complain if we had a Debo-esque type of player, a guy that you can do that kind of stuff with, accentuate and make the team tougher, the running game tougher, add to the toughness of the team, plus he can catch things, catch balls down the field, and, people said, we use him on special teams. There's nothing wrong with getting a player like that. The more diversified you can make the potential for offensive attack, the better the team is, because the more work the opposing defensive coordinators have to do to prepare. But yeah, I was a little surprised by some of the moves. I thought maybe we'd get a little defense, but then I started thinking about it, and we're going into season 2 under this defensive coordinator, and that's when you got to look to see who's really made a move and who's adjusted to the new system and where we need to go from there. So I think some of the not drafting anybody too high in those positions in that side of the ball was a strategic move to see what we really truly have and where we're moving with this defense. So, but I'm going to get on with the rest of my day. Let's go on being a happy Packer Nation, get rid of this woulda, shoulda, coulda attitude, and go Pack Go. See it.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of questions. That's kind of with the wide receiver room is, last year was let's see if anyone takes a jump, and nobody did. This year is let's throw some more guys in there and see how it sorts out. You know, we assume, kind of same with offensive line, maybe Rashid is the guy. We don't really know. But we know that we're not okay with where we're at, and we need to get better. We need depth. We need higher quality, et cetera, and we are confident that by the end of this, we're going to have that. You know, that's wide receiver and offensive line. At least more confident than we would have been. That by the end of this, we're going to have higher top-end talent, as well as better, more and higher quality depth, which I think was becoming a problem on the offensive line, especially as we saw the injuries happen. And, you know, we got guys that are exclusively tackles playing guard in a pinch, and it was ugly. So, you know, we got to see how it sorts out, but yeah, definitely excited about it. And I don't know if we got a Debo or what, but I like him a lot. You know, we'll see. Again, he's a raw player, so I think there is going to be some element of in the beginning, it's going to be a lot of gadgety stuff, and that's going to annoy me. And I'm sure a lot of people say, "See, he's just a." It's like, well, yes, for now, but the point is, the intention is for him to grow beyond that. And you know, there's several guys like that. There's several guys where it's almost everybody really, where it did it with Rashawn, where he came in and they were like, we're going to have him do one thing, and then we're going to try to build on that. You know, we got the designated pass rusher in the 6th round or whatever. That's all he is right now, with the intention of growing beyond that, possibly taking some reps at linebacker, et cetera, et cetera. So there's sort of day one expectations, and then sort of, if these things reach their full potential, here's what that would look like. So, you know, it's a long process, and we got to see how it goes, and everybody's going to want to, everybody's, it's silly to think that people would give these picks 3 years when they won't even give it 5 seconds. I mean, as soon as Belton was announced or Williams was announced, it was an immediate, you know, grade designation on how good of a pick that was, which is the most absurd thing ever.
Hey, Ryan Scare from Southern Illinois.
Yo.
It's Monday after the draft, and I just wanted to say, first off, thank you for the time that you spent working on this up to the draft, giving us all the statistics, analysis, your opinions, to help us, you know, kind of navigate through the whole draft and to make it more enjoyable. So I want to say thank you for that.
For sure, dude.
It doesn't go unnoticed.
Thank you.
Secondly, I just wanted to share my 2 favorite moments of the draft real quick.
Yeah.
Number one, it just, I can't tell you how many times I replayed the moment on your podcast where you put the soundbite in from Cheesehead TV from when Murphy read off the first pick.
Yeah.
It just gave me chills.
So
it made
good.
me laugh. It almost made me cry. It's just a whole gamut of emotion. And
It was interesting because when I heard him announce it, and I said it on the podcast, it almost sounded like he was getting choked up. I don't know exactly what part, but you could kind of hear his voice. It sounded like it was cracking, and he said that he was getting emotional, and he did start to get choked up. So I didn't imagine that. That was very real, and it just adds to the magic of the moment, knowing that, you know, the gravity of the situation really hit him, and I can't think of a better way for him to be sent off than to be given that opportunity to make that announcement on the day that how amazing to look out and basically, I know a lot of people worked on this, and I know the NFL played a big part, and a lot of really talented people in that, but for Mark Murphy to look out and just go, dude, I freaking built this. He did that. I mean, this legend, how many people get to say that they did something that massive? He brought the NFL draft to Green Bay and then put on that spectacular show. Again, the NFL plays a big part in that and in exactly what's going to go where and who and how and all that. But, I mean, they had to put together this proposal and all that. And it just, I mean, what a long shot to be able to sell that. And not only did he sell it, but he delivered. And then he gets the opportunity to stand there, look out at to what he built, you know, looking out over Titletown as he makes the announcement, something else he helped to build and you know, envisioned and brought to life. I mean, the legacy that he left behind, he's standing there at the head of it. It's just so cool.
had played over and over.
And by the way, the fact that some people don't like Mark Murphy, freaking get bent, dude. The guy is a legend. Everything about him is legendary. I love that guy.
Over and over. And you should have that little soundbite before anytime you talk about Golden, play that last soundbite when he announces his name and everybody cheers. Because I think we could be doing a lot of that in Lambeau Field when he steps on the grass. Secondly, on best moments, it has to be Baron Sorrell.
Yes.
Dude,
how cool.
He got me in the feels. That interview.
I mean, the whole thing just felt, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be stupid about stuff, but there is some magical stuff that took place. The fact that we just happened to draft a receiver, you know what I mean? And the fact that Baron Sorrell just happened to be picked by the Packers. Of all the teams, 32 teams, there's 31 others he could have gone to. The one guy that's sitting in the back ends up going to Green Bay. And the Packers didn't know it, they didn't plan it, same with the wide receiver thing. It just happened to go that way. A lot of things just happened to go the right way in this event.
When he started introducing his family, when he was being questioned by the Green Bay media, man, that tells you what Goody is looking for, man. Heart.
Yeah.
The guy cares. And that's the kind of people we want. And the character, what he brings to the locker room. And somebody said that they interviewed a lot of Texas players, and they asked him if you could go to another team and take one player, who would it be? Unanimously, they said Baron Sorrell. So there you have it. I'm rooting for this guy big time.
Well, and I had mentioned how Matthew Golden had a YouTube channel and all that, and on that you can see after this long day he comes back to the hotel and there's his boy waiting for him. I don't think I mentioned it because I didn't know at the time. That was at like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. So not only did he wait at the hotel for his guy to get back, but he waited at the hotel till like 1, 2 in the morning, whatever it was, for Golden to go through all his stuff and come back so that he could be there to shake his hand and congratulate him on that. I mean, you could have just gone to bed and done it tomorrow, or you know, called him or texted him like, hey man, really proud of you. Hit me up tomorrow. I'm gonna head to bed. Big day tomorrow and all that. The guy expected to be drafted the next day. He's got a long day ahead of him, and he waited until 1 in the morning for his teammate to get back so he could give him, and then hung out with him. Wasn't just like shook his hands like, hey, congratulations, and went to bed. He stayed up and hung out with the guy.
And I think he endeared himself to a lot of Packer fans.
Yes.
After that interview, and just to stick around and experience that all, he tells you how much he cares, that he wanted to be there and experience that moment. So I think Green Bay got some dogs, and I can't wait to hear your analysis on all the other draft picks. And man, I'm just super excited. Super excited. I'm out.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of why I said I really hope this draft class doesn't suck, because this whole thing feels so magical, and for it to crash and burn would be pretty tragic, to have a guy like Golden after that magic moment, or a guy like Sorrell just really not pan out. I mean, that would be pretty freaking brutal. But yeah, I mean, it is a special draft class unlike any other that we've ever had, because of the fact that it was in Green Bay, and there's so many special moments that are tied to this, especially having gone, but even not going, you know, just seeing the crowd and seeing the reaction to some of these picks and everything. This is a special group, and I'm excited to really dig in and get to know these guys. And, you know, like you said, when the Packers do us all a favor when they go after high character guys. It's good for our locker room. It's good to have guys that want and are motivated to push themselves to be as good as they can be, because there's a lot of talented guys that come in and they just feel like they don't need to put in the work, and those guys usually don't pan out. Sometimes they do, especially early on when they're super athletic, but then you get older, your body isn't quite what it was, and if you're not putting in the work, it's going to leave you behind. But beyond all that, it's so easy to root for these guys. I can't wait until we get to the Georgia defensive tackle. That guy is so funny. He's so much fun. That undrafted free agent Bugs or whatever. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of that guy. He is built like a WWE wrestler. I know somebody called in yesterday and said that. I mean, I didn't see the pictures, but I saw it after the call-in. And I was like, oh my Lord, please let this guy pan out. He is just a monstrous human being. He's got muscles on his muscles. I mean, he is built like no corner you've ever seen. So, I mean, there's some fun guys, and so we, went through Golden today. I've already recorded tomorrow's, which is Anthony Belton. Got some really good stuff on that, especially on his pro day. He dominated the pro day, which is what put him on the map, and it's why he was a second-round pick. But a lot of good stuff on that, and then I cannot wait to get into Savion Williams, because first of all, I can definitively find out if it's Savion or Savion. I'm pretty sure it's Savion, but it just every time I say his name, there's a little thing in the back of my head going, I bet you said it wrong. I bet you sound stupid right now. So we can get that settled. But to dig into him, and again, I'm planning on also doing hype videos for all of these guys. So make sure you subscribe to Packernet Podcast, the YouTube channel. If not, again, I'll put it up on social media. But just excited to go back and watch these guys and take some snippets and do the songs. You know how I'm a dork with my AI songs. I love doing it. But yeah, real excited about this draft class, like no draft class ever. I mean, there's been prospects I've been excited about, Devonte, Wyatt, and Zach Tom, definitely. But again, like you said, this one's just a little bit different. Garrett, part 2.
Ryan, you read my mind. I, too, have been wondering after the draft ended and how I know it's always best player available. Man, we can't help but think about they pass on defensive backs a few times to take someone else. And Goody has him and Hawed around the question about Jaw. And, man, it just has me wondering, too, that maybe that guy, maybe there's a chance that he comes back, after, just sitting it out a little while and finding that maybe there aren't teams that are really pursuing him. Maybe the grass isn't greener on the other side, and he's come to realize that. Maybe he likes picks that Green Bay took.
Well, and that's, on both sides. I think this is one of those things, I think there's been a lot of damage done. I would still lean toward it not happening, but it's definitely, we got, the good news of the day. It sounds like it's moving a little closer, but I think at the conclusion of this, both sides have to recognize that having kind of sat through this for a while, like you said, the fact that the Packers didn't rush out and immediately grab a bunch of corners is probably cool for Jaire a little bit. If they had gone corner, pass rusher, corner, as opposed to wide receiver, offensive line, wide receiver, you could see Jaire kind of being like, okay, yeah, screw you guys. That didn't happen. In fact, they barely even touched corner. Basically didn't address it at all. But yeah, you got the Packers coming through this process going, okay, this sucks a little bit. And Jaire also, nobody wants him. Not at the price that he's at. He's basically telling people, I'm not restructuring anything. I'm not doing. Okay, then at this point, he has to recognize you're not making that amount of money. Nobody will pay you that. And that sucks for Jaire because he's worth it. And I understand there's frustration there, and I absolutely get that. He should get a massive, massive contract based on how talented he is. But unfortunately, the injuries have dictated the fact that he's not going to get that. Now, it's possible he could sign like a 1 year or something and dominate and then get a bigger contract. He's only 28. It absolutely can happen. But I understand the frustration, but reality for both sides has to set in. The Packers are looking at it going, we don't really have a great situation at corner, and Jaire's camp has to recognize that they have no... they have some leverage with the Packers, but they have no contractual... If you want that amount of money, you're only getting it with the Packers. That's it. The Packers are the only team that'll pay you that, and it's because that contract is on the books. Now, the Packers said that they're looking for some kind of a resolution with Jaire. Maybe it's like the Packers will refuse to pay him that. That's possible, and then they're essentially Jaire is back to square one, but not necessarily, because you can restructure. And restructure doesn't mean let's tear it all down. You could offer the guy an extension, although I doubt the Packers want to do that. I don't know. I don't really know what the solution is, but you could definitely see both sides having explored. The Packers, I'm sure, thought that they would come out a little better at defensive back after this. And again, nothing positive has come from Jaire's camp as far as, hey, we're going to go somewhere else and we're going to make a bunch of money. That's not going to happen. You will get a new contract, and it will be a small contract based on a 28-year-old guy that has basically not been able to play for 3 years due to injury. So we'll see. We'll see. There's been a ton of back and forth, positive news, negative news, positive news, negative news. I'm sure the next bit of news we'll get will be negative. But we'll see where this thing lands. It seems to be a new thing every day. So, again, I got fingers crossed. I've been saying since day one, I never understood why people wanted him to go on. I know a lot of fans were frustrated and, get him out of here. But I think even fans have kind of had that moment where, they wanted to scream, get him out of here because I don't want him here. But now looking at the situation, I don't think there's too many fans saying, screw him, get him out of here. So we'll see how she goes. Let's take a break. We got some beer, cheese, Benny, and we'll see if we can get to Nico as well, who just called in. Take a break. We'll be right back.
Ryan, beer, cheese, Benny here.
Yo.
So, I wake up, get in my car, and I'm like, before I'm going to go to work, I'm going to check X and see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I normally do.
Sure.
And I see the Packers sign Isaiah Simmons.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, okay, I've been hearing about all this guy, and like, everyone's like, oh yeah, get him in Green Bay, and I'm like, okay. Then I go and look him up. I'm like, let me see his stats. Let me see his PFF. He is not very good. I don't understand the whole hype behind this guy. And he's got like a freaking like 45 overall grade. His pass rush grade is like 52, and his run defense isn't even that good either. It's 61.5. So like, what are we getting all excited about? But I don't know. I mean, maybe change the scenery or change of team, helps him improve and he plays better than that. I don't know. But yeah, I don't get it, especially after you got he's a linebacker safety, right? Especially after you got Coop and Quay, McDuffie, and then you got that freaking Colin Oliver dude. And I don't even see the point of this, really. But oh well, I mean, hey, if I end up being wrong and thinking that there's no point about it, and it ends up being that he ends up being a big part of our defense, okay, man, I'll admit when I'm wrong. But I don't know, it just seems kind of pointless.
Yeah, I think the hype is misguided. I don't think it deserves hype. We've obviously seen guys come in that haven't been successful that had success here. We've also seen Packers take swings on, super high talented guys that have come in and they come to the same conclusion, like we can't make it work either. So, this is going to be a 1 year low money contract. I saw it was 1 year. I didn't see how much. I don't know if we know yet, but it's going to be a 1 year low money contract. They're going to bring him into camp. He might not even make the team by the time we get to the end of this. So it's not a big deal. You're right that the hype is not warranted. Everybody's going back to his the hype on draft day and just ignoring the fact that he's been a really terrible football player for like 4 or 5 years. But it doesn't hurt to bring him in and let Jeff Hafley kind of unleash some stuff. It's just a question of, do you have a vision for how you can use them? He obviously has elite tools. And so I think some of this stuff is guys like that will continue to find teams for a long time until enough of the NFL has decided it's over. And the Packers have participated in that several times. I forget the guy, the tackle that we brought in was kind of similar to that. Although he wasn't terrible, but it just whatever. Let's let Hafley play around with it. Let them. They love their chess pieces. This is another chess piece. We'll put him at linebacker and put him in the slot and maybe play a little safety or corner or whatever kind of we'll rush him from linebacker. We'll put him off the edge. We'll do crazy stuff. We want to get more speed and all that. Let's just see. We'll try him in different spots and see if we can find something that works. And my guess is we won't. And he'll either make the team and be a low-impact backup, or he won't make the team and we shrug. The other option being we actually find a way to use him and utilize those strengths, and he's somewhere between a good and a great player. But I'm not opposed to it. I don't think we should be gassing it up like a lot of people are, which is why, today, I think, on today's podcast, I essentially said, we need to set some expectations here, and I went through and basically demonstrated how bad he is. Not to hate on bringing him in, but just because it's, we need to calm down a little bit.
Hey, Ryan, beer cheese, Benny.
Yo.
So there was something, and I thought I had told you this, or I sent a message about this to the Packernet, but I did not.
Okay.
I actually just told a bunch of my friends.
I don't know what we're talking about.
But this is just something that I noticed about the draft, and I thought it was hilarious, man. So it seems to me that, you know, the people that got to sit really close to the stage, like they had all the different teams, like fans of different teams, like that sat really close to the stage.
Sure.
Well, it seemed like every time they showed them, like, they like wouldn't know, like either they wouldn't like know who the guy that their team drafted was, and then they would be like, ah!
Yeah.
Or like I forget what team it was. It might have been the Browns, or I don't know. It was some guy, and you could tell he kind of like looked down. He was like,
oh yeah, I saw that
he
video.
didn't like the pick, but then he like when he lifted his head back up, he was like, yeah. And so I got to wondering. I wonder if the NFL tells these people that sit up there, up front, like, you know, representing their team. I wonder if the NFL tells them, like, hey, you can't have a negative reaction. Like, you have to, like, cheer when your team picks. And, which, you know, like, I would understand.
I don't think they would go to that extent. I think I saw the same video you were talking about, and it seemed to me he had no idea who it was, and then when he noticed the camera, he was like, yeah, you know, getting all excited for his team. We've seen guys have negative reactions. You know, it's not that they maybe they changed it where they started telling them that, but I mean, there's a lot of people up there. They would have had to have made an announcement out to the entire crowd. You know, they're not going to one-on-one tell everybody. And we were up near the front, about as close as you can get without being in there. I never heard that announcement or anything. I doubt that they would make that announcement. I just think fans, when they're on camera and they're repping their team, they don't want to sit there and look all angry. They want to look excited. So yeah, I think I saw that. He no idea who that guy was. He was kind of confused, saw the camera, and then started like cheering, like, "Oh yeah, it was a great pick."
And why they wouldn't want to do that, because they don't want, you know, the players that are drafted to feel bad or maybe or whatever, or they just kind of don't want to, I don't know, like ruin the moment. Like they don't want a bunch of people going, "Oh, boo, that's bull crap." But I just thought it was funny. It's like they wouldn't even know who they're like. You would see like a blank look on their face, like, huh? And then they'd be like, yeah, and then like they would remember that they have to be positive. But so yeah, I don't know if that's a real thing, but that's just my theory, is that the NFL forces them to kind of be positive. Overall though, draft is freaking dope, man. Gosh, I wish I was there, man. But if the draft ever comes to somewhere closer to me, like if it comes to Charlotte, like North Carolina, which I don't know, I was talking to my boss who's a Panthers fan. He's like, bro, we'll never get the draft, dude. He's like, Charlotte's freaking ghetto, dude, and it's freaking terrible. Like, we'll never.
Well, also a lot of, I mean, L.A. is not a great place. There's a lot of cities that are not great that are, of course, going to have the draft. I think it'd be cool to go. I would love to go to Charlotte or, you know, somewhere in the Carolinas. That's one of my favorite places to be. So I don't think that would be, if that's a criteria, then there's not a lot of places that you can hold the draft. I mean, what is it going to be in Pittsburgh? I mean, it was just in Detroit. So yeah, I don't think they're saying, yeah, it's kind of a high crime area, so we shouldn't do it. It doesn't get too much worse than Detroit. But no, I think they're going to do the rounds. I think the fact that they did Green Bay kind of opens it up to just about everywhere. Buffalo's the other small area, which I'm sure they could put on a solid draft out there. But no, as long as you got a nice big enough area, which of course any city can, it's just a matter of we're going to shut down these streets or whatever for the draft. I wouldn't be surprised if that's on the docket at some point. I mean, there's 32 teams, and if they go through every single one, it could be 20 years before you see it. But I wouldn't be surprised if they get something out there. What you got to do is build a new stadium. That's going to be the tipping point. Once you get a new stadium, then the NFL wants to rush over there and do all the cool stuff. But you got to wait in line for all the other teams that built new stadiums.
Yeah, draft, but or even Jacksonville, I'd go there too. But it's also a pretty dirty city.
It's just cities, man. They're all dirty.
But yeah, so like if it came to one of those two cities, or even Atlanta. Atlanta's like 4 hours from me.
Pretty trashy though.
I'm definitely going, dude. But if it's in Green Bay again, I am not.
I like Atlanta, by the way. We always stop there on our way down to Florida. Again, lot of crime and all that stuff, but that's a cool. They got some good stuff in Atlanta. The cities surrounding it are actually pretty nice. I would definitely like to go to a draft in either of those places. You know, Jacksonville, Atlanta, Carolina. You know, I mean, again, they're all cities. So if you're opposed to cities and crime or whatever this situation is, then you probably just don't want to go. You missed your opportunity with Green Bay. That was your one shot.
Not missing my opportunity. No, sir. But that's not going to be probably till like 2040. But anyways, have a good one. Go Pack, go.
Yes, sir. Beer Cheese Part 3.
Ryan, I'm going to call in again. I don't care. It's Beer Cheese Day. This is my last call today, dude, for real. Unless something crazy happens, I don't know.
Okay.
Which probably won't. Anyways, so people are complaining, we didn't address the defense. We should have addressed the defense first. Shut up, you freaking morons. First of all, look at the playoff game. We had the best performance in the playoffs against the Eagles, defensively. Our offense is the reason we freaking lost, you dummies. Imagine now we have this dynamic playmakers like Golden and Savion and, beat up the O-line. I mean, dude, that was part of the reason why we lost, man. We couldn't freaking score points. So now we have guys who are going to give us the ability to move the ball, okay? So I don't want to hear it about how I don't know, dude. I'm just kind of sick of it. But anyways, we'll see you later.
I think Beer Cheese yelled at me. I never experienced that before, but it's frightening. Nico, what's going on?
Yo, Ryan, this is Nico.
Idaho.
I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Just listening to the After Dark now. And it's good. It's good. So my question is, I had a lead up, you know me. So obviously, everyone wants our draft picks to be amazing. You know, like that thing I told you I heard today, where who's going to stop us with the Bears? Like, dude, calm down. You just drafted them. Like, maybe one of those guys will be really good, and you never know. We all want Golden to come out and catch 1,200 yards and 10 touchdowns, but that's probably not going to happen. But I think statistically, if we had to say which one of our draft picks this year will, become a starter and be good, I would say Golden has the highest percentage to do that.
Also, let me just add into that. It's usually pretty rare that the Packers have some kind of an opportunity for, Rookie of the Year honors. We're in the running this year with Golden, so just throwing that out there.
He could, have a good year like JSN and some of those other guys that have been coming out recently. He could be, I think if he is at least as good as Reed was his first year, that's good. I would want him to be better, probably due to his high draft status. And I'm sure that Williams cat will amaze us with a couple crazy plays, and then he'll drop some passes and piss us off. Who's the running back we drafted last year who was hurt all year? He amazed me. I think the first time he touched the ball in preseason, he just grabbed the ball and boink, bounced out and was gone like 25 yards. Showed amazing, body control, cutting ability, reading. So my question is, because obviously that's the goal. When you build to the draft, you want guys to come in and do good the first year and slowly get better. Who do you have pegged that could, kick it up a notch in their second or third years? We all thought the receivers are going to do better their second or third years, and they all kind of went, nope. So, who do you think is realistic? You've got stats and stuff that you can look at. I don't have all that cool stuff. Who do you think who's at least a second-year guy or third or fourth-year guy that is bound to, step up and fill the void that we seem to have last year? And tell me what you think. So, yeah, go back, go. Wow, I'm going to cut it off at 2:33. That's amazing.
Well, probably quite a few eye rolls, but the first person that comes to mind is Lucas Van Ness. Again, I think year one was year one. Year 2, he took a step back like everybody did. By the second half of year 2, he started to really step up, and nobody really noticed it, but he did. This is year 3 overall, year 2 in the system. And he kind of is a freak. So, above 50%, no, not really. But as far as, if you told me somebody that's year 2 or 3 or whatever broke out, that would probably be where I would look. Devonte Wyatt would be another one. He's, 3 years ago, but kind of a similar trajectory with him where, things looked pretty good and then it kind of took a step back and then he started to get back. It's just, I would like an opportunity for things to kind of settle a little bit. And I think year 2, there's a chance for him to kind of emerge. He's never going to be a good run defender, but if he can be a 13, 14% pressure rate guy, I'm beyond excited about that. And then pretty obviously, although I do feel a lot of skepticism, but I'm hopeful, Jordan Morgan. And then the most forgotten guy, Marshawn Lloyd. Very excited to finally get a look at Marshawn Lloyd. I think he is a really talented running back. He's built like Josh Jacobs, and we got a couple glimpses of him, and, things didn't go great. He got like 4 handoffs the entire year, but there's a couple times where you watch how he makes a cut, and it's like, that's a big boy making some pretty sharp cuts there. Obviously you're going to have the vision and everything that goes with it, but real excited to get a look at that guy. Obviously, I'm never going to give up on Luke Musgrave if he can stay healthy. We'll see. I don't feel great about Musgrave. I don't feel great about Jordan or Morgan. No real reason. I mean, Musgrave, there's a little bit of a reason, but just going based on gut. But I think the biggest one that I'm hyper focused on is Lucas Van Ness. He's got the highest ceiling. I think it's explainable why we haven't seen him up to this point. I think we saw the growth when I was hoping to see the growth. So there's just all the little telltale signs that I would like to see are there. What that means as far as like what his peak is going to be, I don't know. But considering he's kind of through the floor right now as far as what people envision him as, which is a horrifically bad football player, if he can get up to being a solid run defender that also is above 10% pressure rate, can get 7-ish sacks in the season. Like that's fine. It's not elite, but that's solid. Maybe he doesn't live up to his draft stock. I'm not saying he can't, but I'm just, that would be sort of the first like sigh of relief that, okay, he made it to that point. He is a starter. He can play. He's a contributor. We don't have to just get rid of him. Maybe he can grow from there. Maybe not. I don't know. But at least he can be here. That's cool. Obviously, there's hope that he can go beyond that, but I'm going to try not to be too greedy about it. All right, folks, I'm going to get out of here. I got a Jordan Morgan hype video to make. You all have a good rest of your night. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
This is for the big man, Anthony Belton. Green Bay's beast, escalate in the flesh. Let's go, let's go. Hey, escalate, hear the roar. Anthony Belton, ready for war. From the line, he controls the fight. Green Bay's titan, shining bright. Watch him roll, a giant with flair. 6'6" frame, defenders beware. Quick off the snap, smooth in his glide. Long arms lock, push rushes aside. Bull rush hits, but he don't bend. Brick wall stands, makes some end. Punch so strong, resets the play. Big Tony rules the trench all day. Run game bangs when he's in the mix. Down blocks carve, lanes get fixed. Inside zone, he's a mauler supreme. Piles get moved, it's a Packer dream. Screens take flight, he's the shield out front. Blots out the sun, pulls off the stunt. Edge rushes fade, can't break his hold. Escalade's power, pure and cold. Escalade, escalade, hear the roar. Anthony Belton, ready for war. From the line, he controls the fight. Green Bay's titan, shining bright. Second round gem, Packer struck gold. 336, a sight to behold. QB safe, he's the gatekeeper. Lanes wide open, edge gets deeper. Hands like clamps, grip tight, no slack. Anchors down, sends him back. Raw at the edge, yeah, he's still green. But NFL polish makes him a machine. Frozen tundra where he'll rise. Upside soaring to the skies. Every snap, he claims his crown. Big Tony's here, shutting it down. Strength meets skill, a rare breed. Green Bay's future, planting the seed. Draft day steal, now watch him flex. Anthony Belton, who's next? Not just size, he's got the spark. Plays with fire, lights the dark. Trenches tremble when he steps in. Escalades rain, let it begin. Skill and grit, he's the one. Packers line, the battle's won. Front and center, time to grind. Big Tony's hype, one of a kind. Escalade, escalade, hear the roar. Anthony Belton, ready for war. From the line, he controls the fight. Green Bay's Titan, shining bright. Escalade, escalade, chanted loud. Anthony Belton, Packers proud. Second round fame, he's the name. Big Tony's here, owning the game.